People. We are a coalition of youth and civil society organizations who have taken a decision that the rights of Nigerians to freely protest peacefully in this country must be defended. And that is why today we have organized this press conference to announce our decision to join the End Bad Governance protest starting on Thursday, 1st August 2024. We are going to march out on that day to express our displeasure at the state of things in Nigeria. The takeoff point for the protest would be Ikeja Under Bridge, Lagos State, by 7 a.m. And we have some cardinal demands, which are: one, reversal of fuel price to pre-May 29, 2023 level, reversal of electricity tariff to pre-May 29, 2023 level, end to hardship and hunger, recall of all victimized activists, free all EndSARS protesters, free all EndSARS detainees rather, end to school fee hike for study grants and not loans, place all political office holders on minimum wage, reverse all anti-poor and neoliberal capitalist policies, fix public refineries, build new ones, and ensure they are under democratic workers' control and management, reverse all privatization of public enterprises and place them under democratic control and management, end insecurity, police brutality and kidnapping across the country, no to illegal demolition and forced eviction in Lagos State and across the country, creation of decent jobs and payment of unemployment benefit to those unemployed, prosecute all corrupt politicians and return all stolen wealth, end security votes, free education and free public health care for all, end to attacks on press freedom, release all political detainees including journalists and bloggers. These are demands that we are taking out on Thursday. Once again, we are going to be peaceful. Our intention is to protest peacefully. We hereby urge the Nigerian police and security agencies to ensure that they fulfill their obligation under the law by protecting the right of Nigerians to protest peacefully. We also urge them not to infiltrate us or deploy their agents to infiltrate us in order to foment trouble, which they will now turn around to blame us for. Our protest is meant to register the anger of Nigerians who are hungry because of the anti-poor policies of this administration. Once again, we are a coalition of civil organization youth groups who have resolved to ensure that the rights of Nigerians are protected. My own name is Comrade Azan Taiwo Soweto. I am the national coordinator of the Education Rights Campaign. Veterans of struggle. This is not the first time we have been protesting peacefully in this country. When we go out to protest, we ensure that none of our members goes out with any other thing other than leaflets, banners, placards of the protest. And we also ensure that no other person who does not have any reason to join our protest, who is not part of our protest, is allowed to join us. And that is why during our protest, you are going to see that we always have a leadership that is very obvious, leading the protest and making speeches. And as we also always do, we are going to also ensure that there are people who are going to be at the back of the protest and at the side to ensure that nobody who is not part of the protest can just join. So on our own, we are going to go out with all of these preparations. But based on our experience, even when we have all of these mechanisms to protect our protest, when the Nigerian police and the DSS are hell-bent on fomenting trouble, they have always found a way of doing so. And that is why we like to urge journalists and all those who are concerned about how this protest will not become violent to actually direct most of these questions to the IGP of police as well as the Director General of the DSS. Because oftentimes they are the ones who always ensure that protests that start peacefully ends up being violent. If police does not infiltrate protests, if the DSS and the police, if they don't shoot tear gas or live bullets at unarmed protesters, there is no way protest can become violent. So we also think that our people in the media should also try and direct these questions to the Nigerian police, to the DSS, Director General, and of course the Chief of the Nigerian Army. This is what we can say now. I would also give space for other leaders of the movement to equally make their own submissions on some of these issues. It can. How it can be solved is this. Protest itself is an indication that those who have been elected by the people have failed to serve the people. And the people now want to exercise their own rights under a democracy, to take their destiny into their own hands and determine their future and ensure that they fight for policies that best represent their interest. What is now left to the government is to listen. And already we can see that even before the day of the protest itself, the government has been doing everything to try and give the impression that it is prepared to try and do something around the issues. But why we still have to have the protest is because we think that the government is still missing the point. Some of the things they say they want to do are simply just scratching the surface. Because where we are talking about reversal of fuel price hike to pre-May 29, 2023 level, and government is distributing palliative or talking about one register for, that does not address the problem. Even a few days ago, NNPC decided to release an information that they are recruiting. If there are nothing less than 30 million Nigerian youths who need jobs in this country, can the NNPC employ all of them? So what that therefore means is that there's a need for us to have discussion about how Nigeria's economy can be run in such a way as to create decent jobs. And that is why what this protest wants to do. The protest wants to put forward an alternative proposal about how Nigeria's economy can be run in such a way as to ensure that it helps, it ensures that the mass majority are able to live a better life. And by the time we have that protest and those proposals are put forward, we will hope that the government will respond to those proposals. But let me also say this, because I also think it's important. Because there's also an attempt to try and create the impression that the role of citizens alone in a democracy is simply to protest for 1 and 2 hours and then go back to sleep. The Nigerian people also have a duty and a responsibility during the protest, depending on how the government responds to the protest demands, to recognize that the government is unable to respond satisfactorily to their demands, and on that basis begin to carve out a democratic way out for their own future. One of which will be for the Nigerian people to take a decision that they need a party, a political party that represents them. Because we need to ask the question, why we have democracy, so-called, or civilian rule, so-called, for 24 years, and we seem to have tried different sections of the ruling elite, different political parties have come and go, and yet we continue to complain of the same thing. It is only because we are yet to have a political party that clearly stands for the interests of the working people, of the youth and the mass of the people. And that is the kind of decision Nigerian people needs to take through this protest, to form such a party and use it to therefore fight for a political power. If such a party is established and is able to establish to enter government, that can mean that we don't have to protest anymore before the basic right of Nigerians to life, to a public education and health care is implemented by such a government. But like I said earlier, I will give the space to other leaders of the movement to equally make 1 or 2 submissions. Comrade Oloye Adegboyega, I believe we want to make a few. This is not about not listening or not ready or not dialoguing with government. This protest is about bringing all Nigerians who are suffering together in order for aggregation of demands. Because if you see what we have said here so far now, if you go to possibly other press conferences of other groups who are going to come for this protest on Thursday, they might also say a few things that are slightly different. Even Nigerians in the communities, in the rural areas, who are equally affected by this problem, they also have their own demands. So the purpose of the protest is to even aggregate all these together. Once it's aggregated, and then the question and call for dialogue can now be properly responded to at that period. Because the movement will also have to sort out the question of representation. Because we cannot have a situation whereby people who do not represent the movement at all, who are not known by the movement, will just go and meet with government and say they are representing, hungry Nigerians. Democratically, the movement will also have to sort out the question of representation. And I think at that point, we can then be looking at, depending on what the government is ready, to concede to, what timelines are possible. But then, on the question of how to resolve the entirety of the problem facing Nigeria once and for all, which leads to the question of whether Labour Party stands for that. Let me say this as a preface, that in responding to this question, I'm responding in my personal capacity as a socialist and as a revolutionary. And that is that for me as a person and my organization, while we generally recognize that the Labour Party in last election helped to demonstrate the possibility of changing this country from the point of view of how it created a surge, of Nigerians who were seeking for some sort of transformation. The unfortunate thing is that the program that the Labour Party went into that election with fell far short of what can actually transform this country. It was a sad reality for us, because you have to ask yourself, for journalists who covered the election, whether there is any of the three major presidential candidates in that election who did not promise to remove fuel subsidy. So what that therefore means is that even if the current ruling party in power had not emerged in that election, if any of the other two had emerged, most likely we would have still been in the same situation of agony, and this protest would still have had to come up. So what that therefore means is that the road that we are going to travel to fully rehabilitate this country is still a long one. We are interested in what can come out of this protest with regards to how the existing structures of the working people and youth, including the Labour Party, can be recalibrated to better represent the interests of the people. But if that cannot be done, that becomes impossible. That's why we said that Nigerian people hold themselves the responsibility of building a new formation that can fully stand for their interests. Because if we had a party today, political party, that fully stands for the interests of the Nigerian people, it becomes easier. This protest can just be what you call a dress rehearsal for an electoral surge that can lead, to the taking of political power by a political party that stands for the interests of the people. But look at what happened in 2012 when we had a similar protest. Look at the political party that seemed to benefit from that, and look at the kind of terror they unleashed on all of us. So to ensure that this will not be the outcome politically of this protest is why some of us are also consciously putting up the point that when we are at the barricade, like we were just 4 years ago during NSAS, beyond just fighting for reversal of fuel price, there's also a need for Nigerians to discuss how can we ensure that after this protest we don't return to a Nigeria where 26 million people will be hungry, in a Nigeria, in a country flowing in milk and honey.
Oloye Adegboyega Adeniji is my own name. I'm the Southwest coordinator of the PRP Vanguard and Red Line for Good Governance. It is very, very unfortunate that we have a president that has been a senior activist in the past 30 years, coming to power and ruling without taking the people along. The people are hungry. This is extreme capitalism that has brought us to this level. And as a senior activist, we expect our president, as leader of government, to lead by example. It's been diverted through corruption and so many other ways. We know these people. When they are accused of corruption, they go and join APC, the ruling party, and they say all offenses are forgiven. This is very, very wrong. We'll appreciate the president's response to our demands. He himself, as a leader and example, drop all resources of Nigeria that are in his possession and set up a system that will compel everybody, civil and public servants, that have served Nigeria in the past 24 years to drop all what they have taken away from Nigeria, so that the national economy can be floated back. You see, he has an opportunity to set up a legacy of a true leader, a servant leader. So, the ball is in his court to come down with all what they have taken from Nigeria. Our resources, they have diverted. They have collected loans. They didn't use the loan to serve Nigerians. Let them bring it back. They know themselves. The Senate president, all of them, they are ministers that have been accused of corruption. Let them drop all the resources of Nigeria in their possession and use it to refloat the economy. Use it to make sure when they reduce subsidy, there will be no bankruptcy of the nation. Nigeria is rich enough. Our challenge is the leaders that are embezzling our resources. So we are asking them to come down from their high stable and come to the level of every Nigerian. There should be a level below which any Nigerian should not live. Can provide education, affordable housing for everybody, and Nigerians will appreciate a fundamental change in this line. Thank you very much. Olóyè Adégbóyèga Adéníjì.